I started this channel on January 27th, and as I film this, it's March 15th, and I just hit 1,000 subscribers. And I am honestly a little gobsmacked. I had done a lot of research on YouTube channels, and based on what I had seen, my goal was to hit 1,000 subscribers in a year, which seems to be a pretty common goal for beginning YouTubers. I figured based on the kind of channel I wanted to make, it would be a slow and steady growth. And one of the popular videos I was really looking forward to making is one of those, how YouTube changed my life with 500 subscribers or less than 500 subscribers, something like that. I figured I'd make it around the 3 to 6 month mark based on what I had guessed. But then I had a video kind of take off enough that I went from 500 to 1,000 really fast, and I didn't even have time to make a good video in that time frame. So now it's like too late to do the 500, but like, by George, I'm gonna make the video anyway. I'm not sure I've ever used the expression by George in my life. I'm not sure where that popped out. I'm Lydia Foxglove, and I'm a fantasy author. Welcome or welcome back. And one of the reasons I was so excited to make this video is because YouTube really did change my life before I even started with the channel. And no one is more shocked about that than me. I don't really watch a lot of television. I have always just kind of hated social media. I did a YouTube video like a long time ago when YouTube was very new, and I just got like mean comments from like bros telling me how ugly I was, so then I didn't make a video again for a while. And then I started manga tubing a little bit in 2021, which was a much better experience. I think YouTube has changed a lot for the better in that time, but I wasn't able to keep up with it. And I wasn't a big YouTube watcher either, but I did have 100 subscribers left over from the manga days. It was just for fun, not really serious. It really started a couple of years ago when my father-in-law died and he left us his house full of collectibles. He had a ton of Legos that were built, and we just had to like toss them in garbage bags to contain the parts, put them in boxes and tote them to our house and sort through them. So we'd kind of have to reassemble them a little from the move, clean them because he was a smoker. So for 2 years, I was just sitting on the couch with these Legos, like, what can I do to entertain myself during this time? And that was when I really started looking at that YouTube icon on my television and thinking, that's the ticket. My first thought was to find videos of people doing like thrift store flipping. I thought that would just keep me motivated while I was doing this endless slog of a task. Then one of my friends recommended Rachel Maxey to me. She knew I liked vintage, and Rachel had started out doing a lot of vintage content. Now she's more known for like crafting and cosplay, but I thought I wasn't really going to enjoy her channel because just the thought of crafting stresses me out. Living in a three-dimensional world sometimes is very difficult for me. But to my surprise, I found her channel very delightful just because of her personality, even though I was never going to craft or sew. It was just fun to watch her doing something she enjoyed and talking about it. From there, I stumbled on Paola the Cottage Fairy and Morgan Long, who were both somewhere in that mindful living cottagecore booktuber spectrum. Those are actually kind of 3 different things, but that was when it really started to hit for me because I was at this point where I just felt kind of lost in my creative life. They were both visual artists, and they seemed to be grappling with a lot of similar things. Are you playing with my braid? Oh. As I was watching their videos, I started to get the sense that as they were making the videos, it was helping them work on their mental health and keep their own personal priorities straight, helping them to treat themselves like they would a friend or one of their YouTube audience, to be gentler on themselves, to stay more away from hustle culture and just keep their priorities in line. They would lay their feelings bare, and I would feel less alone as I was watching. I started to realize that YouTube had a quality that was different from other social media. It didn't always feel shallow. Most of the other platforms always felt shallow to me, but some of the content that I was watching on YouTube felt very profound and was changing the way that I was thinking about my life and the world. I realized that this is social media, but it also felt more like art, and it was a kind of art that I was really craving at this point in my life. but they were both visual artists. And I'm more of a writer, so naturally I started thinking, well, there must be some writers that have channels like this as well. But I couldn't find very many. I do enjoy Christy Ann Jones. Her channels are very cozy. And I like Anna's Journal, who she's kind of a new YouTuber, but I think especially for being pretty new at it, she's kind of hit some of those notes for me. But if you are watching any channels that kind of remind you of what I'm trying to do, or a writer equivalent of the Cottage Fairy or some of those other more mindful channels, drop them in the comments. I would love to know. Mostly what I found on AuthorTube was more like, you know, top 5 tips to strengthen your protagonist, top 10 tips for marketing, or they'd be mostly newer authors just doing kind of daily vlogs talking about editing their book, writing their book, finishing their book. And I can see doing some of that, of course. I'm not opposed to that kind of content, but generally I kind of feel like, why would you watch my craft advice when you could watch Brandon Sanderson's channel? I mean, every writer is different, but I'm definitely more of a mid-lister, and I also feel like craft is very personal. I feel like the more universal aspects of being a writer that are challenges that actually not just writers but all creative people have to go through is more the emotional, psychological side of it. And on the other hand, kind of the fun parts where you're just talking about stuff you like and geeking out about, like, here's the plot of my new book. I was so inspired by this TV show, and we both liked X thing growing up. Like, whenever I get together with my friend Krista, I know we're going to talk about the Dragonlance books at some point. What I really loved is how some channels felt like a community or a conversation, even when I was just a passive viewer and I didn't actually comment. I feel like there starts to be kind of an imaginary dialogue that can occur with those kind of YouTubers that, like, I've watched enough videos of Morgan Long telling her viewers that it's okay to take a break, it's okay to be gentle on yourself. And after I watched enough of her videos, sometimes when I was being really hard on myself, I would actually imagine Morgan being like, it's okay to take a break. And I started to feel like I was being gentler on myself from watching YouTube, and that there was actually kind of an undercurrent of almost like a movement of artists and mindful people trying to shake off this like rampant capitalism and consumerism and hustle culture. And that felt really empowering for me and really inspiring to me. I also started thinking, when it comes to like world building and the themes that we choose as writers and all those kind of like really pleasurable parts of writing, the parts that you really just love to talk about, the parts that drew you to be a writer in the first place. I love talking about that with people. I love hearing other people's passion for their characters and plots and themes and worlds. At one point when I was a teenager and I was thinking about going to college, I had this idea, like, maybe when I go to college, I can get some kind of degree that enables me to write books about like the psychology of telling stories and world building. I'm not even sure if that's a thing to this day, but that's where my head went. Like, that's a thing that interests me. I also started thinking that at this point I've had a fairly long career, and for most of the years of my career I have made a living doing it. So for a long time I've been thinking of myself as more of a mid-lister or someone who never really hits it and doesn't have a lot to offer. But after so many years of this, you start to realize that just being in it for this length of time is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. I have had some successes that were pretty big, and I've had some lows. I've had these high highs where I start thinking, here it is, I made it. I've been through different waves of inspiration and burnout, and I've done traditional publishing and indie publishing. So after these 2 years of accidental immersion in the world of YouTube, much to my own surprise, I was starting to get very excited about the idea of starting a channel. I hadn't been so excited about social media since the days of LiveJournal, which was before there really was such a thing as influencers or going viral as we know it. And you certainly didn't think about monetizing a social media platform. And this was the first time since those days that I had thought, yes, it's possible I could make some money doing YouTube, or I could use it for marketing, but you know what? I might just want to do it anyway, even if it doesn't make me a dime. That was such an exciting thing to feel after so many years of like, you gotta get on Twitter, you gotta get on Facebook, you gotta start a group, you gotta get on Snapchat, you gotta get on TikTok, you gotta get on BookFunnel. You know, I'm forgetting about 10 of them that have come and gone or come and stayed. One of the reasons I've just hated social media is that I don't really want to be there, and I especially don't want to be there as an author. There is either this constant tension between using the social media platform and pretending you're not trying to market yourself while you really secretly, or not so secretly, are using it for marketing. Or you have platforms like TikTok now, where if you don't just use it for one focused thing, the words of wisdom are that the algorithm will get confused and no one will even see your videos at all. No cats, only marketing. I can't help but feel that using all of social media just for marketing or pretending not to market is very soulless and boring. I mean, it's true, right? And yet we're all there, and probably a decent chunk of people you follow are trying to market themselves in some way or another. Obviously, people do enjoy these platforms. I know some authors who really love Instagram. They like scrolling Instagram. And if you like to scroll Instagram as a human, you're probably a little better at using Instagram in a natural way as an author. And if you love YouTube as a viewer, you're probably more likely to enjoy making YouTube videos, even if you're not much of a filmmaker. At least that has been my theory as I've started this channel. So as I wrapped up my father-in-law stuff, I started getting serious about this. I made a list of all the YouTube videos I had thought about I could maybe do. I got some equipment. I didn't even have like a nice phone or anything. One thing I told myself is for the first year at least, I wasn't gonna be too stressed out about this. I was just gonna have fun, and also that I had to work within the time that I had. Like, I only have one day a week that I could conceivably work on YouTube videos, and I still have some other things that I need to do during that day. So the video's ambition level has to fit within the framework of that day. I knew from day one, I just had to tell myself, you're not gonna know all the technical stuff from day one. You can't shoot a bunch of amazing B-roll and put in tons of extra clips and get subscriptions for a music library, although as soon as I get monetized, I am definitely buying a subscription to a music library as a celebration because I am so tired of YouTube's music. I told myself, you can't be on the level of experienced YouTubers who've been doing this for years. Just make bad videos. This is kind of my advice for everything that you'll probably hear in many videos. Just don't get paralyzed, just make mediocre videos. And I also thought hardly anyone will be watching in the first 6 months while you're figuring this out anyway. That's where I turned out to be kind of wrong, thanks to all of you. On January 27th, I published my first video. By the way, I procrastinated for an entire month from the time I said I was gonna start YouTube to when I finally did it. But nevertheless, a month later, I posted that first video. And as I expected, I sent it out to all of my mailing list, Facebook group, blah, blah. Didn't do amazing. On February 7th, I got out my next video that was about developing the same fantasy world for 30 years. I thought this one had some potential to get a broader audience because there's a video by Rick's Creations that has gone surprisingly viral, but it wasn't his second video ever, and he had a lot of lovely artwork in it, and I still thought, I don't know, is there really a huge appetite for this? But it did pretty well for my second video. It was up to 2,000 views pretty quickly, and I was picking up some subscribers who were people I didn't know. And best of all, I was getting interesting comments, and it just felt so right. This was the sort of experience that I have yearned for from the internet ever since those early 90s to early 2000s era internet that some of you are going to be too young to even remember at all. Then I did the what did I spend in a month video. I know those are kind of a YouTube staple, so I figured it would get a little bit of action, though probably not like a viral amount of action. And that was about right. It probably got like 500 views, which is probably accurate for a new channel with that kind of video. I'd heard someone say on some YouTube advice video that you should aim to have a mix of videos that please your core audience and your core niche, and some that reach a broader audience. And that makes sense to me. So the fourth video was like a very dialed in world building video, and I didn't expect that one to do particularly great, but I had a lot of fun with that one because I just love talking about world building. Then the video about my unschooling, homeschooling childhood did okay, that one got like 1,000 views and another little batch of subscribers. And then I put out I wrote 40 books in 4 years. And I didn't expect this one to do any better than the other videos, honestly. But it kicked off well and it just kept going, and I started getting more and more subscribers kind of quickly. It took me 49 days to get 1,000 subscribers when I thought it was going to take me a year. And I am shocked. I am just not used to doing things that algorithms love. And when I have, it's always been because I wrote a book that was to a very hot trend of the moment. Anybody in that space could have put out a novel with that title and cover, and it would have sold, just in the way that you get certain YouTube videos on your feed that are kind of like a scandalous topic of the week. In so many ways, even though I'm not like making money on this or anything right now, it's kind of been the most satisfying week of my entire career. Just to hit a goalpost sooner than I thought, while also really enjoying myself and being myself and making connections with people. It gives me hope that there is still room in the world to do things that you really enjoy doing. Often when an endeavor goes well, you can look back and see all the things that you did well. But when an endeavor goes poorly, you can look back and say, oh, I did this wrong, I did this wrong. But usually when you start, you just don't know which it's gonna be. It's only hindsight that tells you what you did wrong or what you did right. And so it can be very scary. And when I started this, it was scary because I knew I'd be taking some time away from my writing, and my income has dropped off a lot from doing the Lego thing for 2 years. So I felt like a huge pressure to get back in the game, if nothing else, just because I do have fans who would like to see another book from me, I'm sure, and I would like to write another book. But this shows me that sometimes you should do those things that are a little crazy and scary. Even though some of them might fail, I have had some of those pivots that failed, and for that matter, this channel could kind of lose the algorithm love and start to drop off for a while. I am well aware of the failures that are possible, but I'm trying to be open to the successes that are possible and to celebrate moments like this where I achieve something. And some of you might be wondering, am I monetized yet? No. As I film this, I'm at 1,400 of the 4,000 watch hours that you need to be monetized, even though I do have enough subscribers to be monetized now. So that might take a little while yet, and I'm sure a lot of that is based on the types of videos that you make. This kind of video that's more personal probably has a higher rate of subscriber to watch hours versus like a more practical video that might get 1 million watch hours but not as many subscribers. I'm actually planning to do a couple extra videos just for the month of March because I would really love to push my little channel over the finish line and get that monetization ball rolling, because I know YouTube kind of can be slow about the approval process and all of that. And it would be great to just celebrate that, even though I don't expect to make more than like $20 or $30 in the first month, but I mean, you never know. Mainly, I'm just having so much fun and I feel so refreshed and encouraged. If there's one takeaway from this, it's that it's almost never too late to start a new direction that could turn into something wonderful, and it might surprise you. I say almost because every time someone says it's never too late to do X, I always think like, is that going to be triggering to like centenarians watching? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe if you feel inclined. I do videos on the creative life in general and writing and world building in particular, both from an emotional and a practical perspective. I also have a Substack and a Patreon, and I've been getting a lot of questions, so I've started to compile some of those questions into like a weekly post I could put on Patreon and Substack, at least in any week where I get questions, so that way I'm not answering a question in a comment that many people might want the answer to, but it just gets lost in the comments. Anyway, one thing I have already learned about YouTube is that, oh my gosh, comments take so much more time than I thought, and it makes me really sad because I love answering comments, but I think I've already spent like 20 hours answering comments. I don't know. I am trying to answer as many comments as I can without it turning into a full-time job. So that's it, and I will see you soon, hopefully. Bye. And then I put out the I wrote 40 books in 4 weeks. I started this channel